we've had the final race of the season at Abu Dhabi, and got to say it wasn't an absolute classic by any means or any stretch at all, was it? But it summed up the season quite well, didn't it? Max Verstappen leads the way. He held off Charles Leclerc early on, and then he was pretty comfortable and set for a fantastic win. 1,000 laps led in a season, a new record. He's just been absolutely phenomenal, that guy. He was just impressive throughout. He had a comfortable lead. He was managing Perez's race for him also. It wasn't a great race, let's be honest, but let's get to it. Russell was the few key moments, really. George Russell beating Lando Norris out of the pits in the fight. Actually, the first time I think Mercedes have done a great job in the pit lane. They beat Norris out. Norris, naturally got a really poor stop, 5 seconds, sticky wheel nut, and that helped Russell in his fight for P3. The Alonso-Hamilton battle after the second pits was really good to watch, wasn't he? Alonso really clever with that, sort of trying to... it wasn't that clever in the end, was it? Trying to get Hamilton let him past before the DRS detection zone to beat him out of that. But it didn't really matter in the end, did it? Next lap round, Alonso got that pass back on Hamilton, and he was pretty comfortable in that position in the end. Charles Leclerc letting Sergio Perez past to try and let Perez build a 5-second gap on George Russell. He held that off. He pulled that up. A brilliant race for Charles Leclerc. Just wasn't enough for him and for Ferrari to get P2, but Charles did all he could in the end. And the P2 constructors battle, literally just summed up P2 in the race for positions all season, didn't it? Max, he was, off he went, but behind that, we've seen some incredible racing. And it kind of happened again, didn't it, for P2 in the end? It came down, it wasn't even in Ferrari's and Mercedes' hands as it was in the end. It was Perez getting that 5-second penalty for his collision with Lando Norris, which sort of handed Mercedes the title. So, with all three of them in the way, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, all sort of coming together in that fight for P2, just summed up that championship behind Max Verstappen brilliantly well. So a fantastic job. Mercedes clinched P2 by 3 points. A fantastic job for Williams, I've got to say. It wasn't a great race for them. They had to rely on other results. But they hold on to P7 by 3 points. McLaren get fourth in the constructors, comfortable in the end, 22 points ahead of Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso, with that crucial move on Yuki Tsunoda with just a couple of laps to go, secures fourth place in the Drivers' Championship, just ahead of Charles Leclerc, level on points them to 206, but Fernando Alonso gets that by having more podium positions than him. But yeah, like that, just 4th to 7th, it was just 6 points in it. 200 points in 7th place for Sainz, I think it was in the end. He had Carlos Sainz had a poor race, didn't he? And we'll get to him in a minute. And we're going to go on to the 3 good and the 3 bad of the race. The 3 good, I've not really put Max Verstappen in here very often because he's just been that good, and he's not really had to do an awful lot in the racing. But I've got to say, 1,000 laps led in a season is just absolutely phenomenal. 19 wins out of 22 in a season is just out of this world, isn't it? And if you put into contest, yes, you can say he's got the best car. Red Bull winning 21 out of 22 races, but his teammate has really struggled, hasn't he? So, we've not seen that on Max Verstappen's side of the garage, so it's clearly down a lot of it to do with him doing an absolute fantastic job. You've got to give credit where it's due. He's been brilliant this season. Into the second of the 3 good for is Charles Leclerc. He had a great race in that Ferrari. Comfortable P2, held off George Russell, and the thought and the presence to let Perez pass and try and snatch that P2 for Ferrari just wasn't to be in the end. But he was brilliant, really well. I thought they might struggle with tyre deg in that race. It wasn't to be. He was close up on Red Bulls, again, early on, they did really well on their medium tyres, but as soon as they stuck on them hard tyres, again, like we've seen in Vegas, they really struggled on that, didn't we? I mean, he was only a second and a half behind Max Verstappen early on, but as soon as them hards came on, the Red Bull was in a different league again. But a solid race from Charles Leclerc. And then I'm going to go for third. I'm going to go for George Russell, a P3 finish off. Not been a great season for him, and so to get a podium in the end, and really crucially gave Mercedes that P2 in the Constructors' Championship. He just didn't have enough to get past Charles Leclerc, did he? Managed to stay about a second and a half in the middle to early parts of the race, and then after that, Charles Leclerc just managed to manage that gap really well in the end. But I've got to say, a fantastic job for him. And I've got to give a shout out to Yuki Tsunoda, because he drove an absolutely brilliant race for him. I think he was let down by his team though, because they were the only ones in the top 12, I think, to go for a one-stop strategy. It wasn't to be. They played it too safe, and in doing so, I think they've cost themselves second place in the Constructors, because Yuki was fast, isn't he? He was comfortably and early on just held P6. He actually led the race for a decent chunk, didn't he? Because he stayed on like 20 something odd laps on their medium tyres, which was a really good job from him, managing them tyres for that long. But yeah, the one-stop strategy just was the wrong call, and I think had they gone for a two-stop, I think Yuki had the pace, and I think they underestimated that pace a little bit, did the team, by holding on for a one-stop. And I think that's the only downside there, because he was, my driver of the day. He got the driver of the day. He was absolutely brilliant, Yuki. A brilliant job from him this season overall, and we'll do a race review at some point later on in a few weeks' time. But he was, just shone, and he was brilliant this race as well. On to the three bad. I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri. He started in third place, and he again just really struggled with tyre management. Was ahead of Norris and then sort of slipped back, let him pass, and then got passed by George Russell. Just chewed up his tyres on the mediums really well early on, and then even with the hards as well, he struggled. The only good side is that he finished just one place behind Lando Norris. Naturally, he was disappointed with his race anyway, but I kind of just expected him to do a little bit better over the race distance, but it just wasn't to be. And I think that's something that he really needs to work on over the winter, is just getting that tyre management right. On to the second of the three bad is Carlos Sainz. He started P16, finished P18. I just expected him to have a much better charge through the field, didn't he? And considering how well Charles Leclerc has done, Carlos Sainz just was equally as poor, I suppose, in that it was just the complete contrast between the two cars was strange, really. And I think it was that a really poor pace from him that cost Ferrari P2 in the Constructors. Had he had a semi-decent race and even finished, he had the chance to finish higher up, I think. It just fell away. Horrible weekend for him. And then the third of the three bad, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton, because overall for this weekend he had a good start to the race but then dropped off. I'm not sure what happened when he came out of that pits. It looked like it'd be in a decent battle with Fernando Alonso. I thought he would have enough on him once he got past him to streak ahead. It just wasn't to be. I know he got damaged with that little bump on Gasly that he had. But yeah, he was just really off the pace all weekend, right from practice. He had a horrible qualifying session. It wasn't a great race for him either. And on one final point, I've got to give a shout out to Williams. An incredible P7 in the Constructors' Championship. It's great to see them finally off the back of the field. Yes, it wasn't a great race for them, but it's been a great season for them this season. The race didn't quite go well for Alex Albon, did he? He had a poor start, dropped back. Logan Sargent just didn't have a great weekend, really, did he, overall? But crucially, a P7 in the Constructors. Yuki's and AlphaTauri's poor decision on that one stop really cost them. And yeah, fantastic job for Williams overall. I think they can just be really, really happy. It's great to see an outfit that's got like 114 race wins, you know, a fantastic history in Formula One, finally moving up forward. They've been really, really brilliant this season. They can be so happy with that. And they've got a great leader now with James Vowles, a great team building up in that, and they've got some sort of momentum, and there's some enthusiasm and excitement for Williams finally, and they can build on that hopefully into next season and carry that through. Let's see what happens with Logan Sargent on that side of things with them. They can't really afford a passenger in that sense like Sargent, can they? Because actually, if they had someone that was close enough to Alex, who basically picked up all their points for them this season, you know, I think they would have been comfortable P7 and potentially in a fight. Maybe we would have seen with the guys ahead of them. Who knows? But I think that's one thing on one aspect that they really probably need to look at. But overall, they can be immensely happy with that. I didn't see that happening for them. If you look at where they were last season to come off this season, it's been an absolutely phenomenal job from them. A shout out to McLaren also. You've got to say a P4 in the Constructors' Championship from where they started this season. Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, you remember that. It was absolutely disastrous from them. And to come back, they've beat Aston Martin quite comfortably. They've had some mega results, haven't they? Oscar Piastri winning that sprint race in Qatar was brilliant. Lando, Norris, and number 2 and 3 for Piastri. A podium for Norris in his home race in Silverstone was a brilliant watch. They've had some, you know, fantastic races. They've taken the fight to Red Bull in parts this season, and they've really like enlivened the middle part of the season, didn't they? They just came alive and they were brilliant. Wasn't the greatest race for them to this race weekend, but overall I think they've got to be really happy from where they've come to where they are. The most improved team of the season for me. Midway through the season anyway, at least every part that they bought, it just worked on that car, didn't it? It was a fantastic job from them. They can be really happy with that in this for this season. But yeah, more for on every team to come in some of the videos that'll come later after this season's finished now. But yeah, they can be happy with that. But yeah, that's it. That brings the season to an end. Like I said, it wasn't a classic, but it was a clean race. Wasn't no safety cars, no DNFs this weekend. And it was the first time in 20 years what we've not seen a British driver win this season. And that's just purely credit to Red Bull, isn't it? 21 out of 22 wins. And that's where I'm going to end, because you've just got to talk about them. They've been absolutely outstanding. There's no two ways about it. I mean, even to finish this race 17 seconds ahead of second place in a car that they've not developed for absolutely ages must send shivers down the spine of the rest of the teams that have been trying to bring upgrades, and you know, there's a big tall order even on for next season, because I imagine they've built a lot of resources and going into 2024 Red Bull, so naturally you'd expect a jump next season, with it being like the second third season into a regulation change. You think there's not as much of a gap that they can find, or pace that they can find with where the regulations are going, so you do naturally hope that everybody else catches up. We have seen that over one lap pace, hasn't we? Ferrari and Charles Leclerc has been brilliant in getting a good handful of poles this season, and it's just really in the race pace and managing they're able to just push harder for longer on the tyres, and they've managed tyre wear absolutely brilliantly in that Red Bull. So if they can do that, the other teams, I think that's where they need to tweak it. But other than that, it's a really close field. I mean, it was 1 second between first and last on the grid in qualifying, so it's a really tight battle. When we've seen that with P2, we just need to see that overall for a fight for the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. I mean, we hope we don't just see this sort of build up to 24, 25, where we really kind of get that like we've seen in 21, and then a big regulation change we see in 26, and it all throws it wide open, and we get one team makes a brilliant start and charges off with it. And I think that's where probably Formula One maybe need to think about these regulation changes. Do they need to make them so soon, like by the time everybody catches up and we get really great racing? It's a big change again, and we get one constructor kind of pulls a rabbit out the hat, and off they run with it. Yeah, let's see how it pans out for next season. Yeah, absolutely great season to watch, despite it just being a Red Bull running off with it. They've been phenomenal though, but like I said, the P2 constructors battle, like, it came down absolutely right to the wire last lap, again with Ferrari and Mercedes, the fight for P2, and it's just been absolutely anybody's game, hasn't it? We've seen so many drivers take that second step of the podium from one race to another. We just never knew who was there. Aston Martin were absolutely phenomenal early on. Fernando Alonso's been a breath of fresh air, hasn't he, throughout this season. And yeah, there we go. Thanks for watching and sticking with me for this season. Watch out for the driver ratings video coming early next week. And we'll go from there. It'll be a season review to come, my highlight and the best race of 2023 for me. So also watch out for that, and there'll be all the content to keep you going through the off season. It's 97 days, just over 3 months, isn't it, till the season kicks off again. It won't be long, hopefully, before we see the new cars revealed. It'll be interesting and exciting to see what concepts everybody comes up with next time out. But it's a big reset for everybody fighting Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren to catch up Red Bull. They've been absolutely outstanding, and well done to Red Bull for this season. They've been fantastic. And I'm going to end on that note. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always, and I'll see you next time. And I've got to show you a shout out actually to McLaren for this merch. Yes, it's a new top. If you've bought any of the fantastic Black Friday deals, yeah, give me messages in the inbox of what you've picked up and found. But yeah, they did a fantastic job, and it's actually really nice fit. I ordered it just the other day. It's arrived today, and it's on show for the video. Yes, there we go. Thanks for watching. See you next time.